What is up, guys? It's Mason once again, and today we just have a very quick yet nice analysis video. So I recently hit 1700 blitz. I've really been struggling in blitz, but recently I've been doing quite well. Okay, my previous stream was bad, but recently I realized I've been winning quite a lot of my games. I don't know why. Usually this win streak happens once in a while, but recently it's been very consistent. As of recording this, I think I'm 1754, almost like inching closer towards 1800, or is it 1720? I lost some games in the stream. Yeah, but I'm inching closely towards 1800, and it seems I can even get it this week if I play chess every single day. So yeah, I just wanted to show you the games that led up to me getting to 1700, as they were quite interesting, of course, with some blunders and inaccuracies. So without much ado, let's get into it. So my first game to show you is against Puffy 88. At this point, I'm 1670. So I'm playing as black, and my opponent plays c4. Now, I have a very consistent way I play against c4, but I just decided to switch it up based on things I've seen grandmasters play. So this is usually how I start. Knight to f6, a very flexible move. You can transpose into the queen's gambit. You can do so many interesting things with this move. My opponent goes d4, so I can of course play, for example, e6 and then go d5 and then get the queen's gambit declined, which is what I do. e6. My opponent plays knight to c3, and obviously now we can get the queen's gambit declined. But I decided to go about it a little bit differently, and I played this move here, bishop to b4. And I recall these Sicilian structures, which is like something I've seen when I used to, for example, watch the chess brass very religiously at a point. There's this very consistent, like, normal pawn structure I've seen with this pawn on d5, c5. So I just was like, okay, you know what, I'll go for this exact same idea. But this is an actual inaccuracy. As my opponent took, I didn't know what to do. Like I said, I haven't met this line before. I was thinking about like queen here. I was thinking about so many things. But all I know is that I just wanted to capture the pawn back. A very good move would have been, for example, knight here. Knight here would have been a very nice move to play. But I didn't know what to do, and I just took with my bishop. I wonder why it does this nowadays. Whenever I hit a move, that's what it does. Okay, so I played takes. My opponent plays h3. It's a very slow move. I don't get why he played this move. It doesn't spoil his position in any way. But I mean, I felt there were more things he could do, like trying to get the king castled early, even maybe putting the bishop here. So many things my opponent could play. So I played c6, and now we have this sort of like hedgehog structure. You can put the pawns on b6, a6, and I have played the hedgehog quite a bit, so I kind of have an idea of how this is going to go. My opponent again plays another waiting move, which is strange because the more he does this, the better my position is becoming. But I mean, I could ignore it, but I decided to play a6. And my point is, if he plays this, I can take, and if he takes, I can take here. And I was thinking that that's fine. He plays bishop to g5, attacking, pinning my knight. Knight b to d7. Finally, he plays e6. I play h6, question the bishop. Where does your bishop want to go? Bishop goes to h4 expectedly. And here I played bishop to a5. Now you might be wondering, like, why bishop to a5? Why not maybe castles immediately or something? I suddenly noticed that my opponent could play like knight here and put pressure on my position. So I didn't want this move to come with an attack on my bishop. So I mean, the best move would be, for example, I guess play b6. This a pawn prevents this whole idea coming in. But I don't know, I was seeing ghosts and I played this. And it's obvious why this move is bad. I suddenly undefend this pawn. My opponent jumps into I wasn't actually expecting him to go here, but he goes into this square. Now he has two attackers on this pawn. I can't really defend it. I decide to go queen to b6 for counter play. The point is, if he takes, and I can save myself, I can get takes here, and now I can put some pressure on him. I believe, with like maybe checks and forcing the queens off the board, those kinds of ideas. Which is why I play queen to b6. Knight takes, and our king comes up. My bishop is bad, so him taking here was very questionable for me, but that was fine for me. And now I have a very good pressure on his queen side, despite the fact that yes, I made a mistake and so on and so forth. I believe I have very good pressure on my opponent's queen side, so I don't think I'm completely bad in this position. My opponent now jumps in with his knight to d4. I didn't get the reason why he went knight to d4. I was thinking maybe you want to come in here and put pressure here. I was just trying to find moves on my opponent. But the moment he played knight there, I just felt safe. I felt like my position is currently becoming like a little bit better. Queen takes, knight jumps in, attacking the bishop, and then I play my bishop here. And I was thinking that he was targeting the square with his pieces. That's why I played my bishop there. His bishop now goes in here unprovoked. Again, if you are still trying to force this idea, then you are making a very big mistake, because if your queen ever has to come in, you should know that there's a problem with your back rank. And you, like as we saw in the game, my opponent is not defending his pieces. He's not developing. He's playing this forcing the aggression kind of style. And I'm feeling okay here. And I'm like, okay, you can keep doing this and I'm going to be completely fine. Now I jump in. So now I can actually start my counter attack. I can put pressure on my opponent. I can weaken some squares. My position is safe, right? And second of all, my knight defends this square. So if there was anything he was planning, it just doesn't work. Knight in here does not do anything. So again, what was the reasoning for what was my opponent thinking to make such moves? Okay, now finally the rook comes in to attack my queen. Slide the queen back. And as you can see, if you couldn't see it before, now it's very clear that black is completely fine, if not winning. My opponent finally develops his bishop after waiting for eons, but at this point it's just too late. Knight takes g3, pawn takes, and you can see so many weaknesses around my opponent. Don't rush to attack. Don't follow the mistake of my opponent. Rook h to d8, preparing so many things. Like these are very good like semi-open files, and preparing so many unleashing so many attacks on my opponents as the king is here in the center. Queen finally comes, queen develops to e2, defending the pawn. Knight jumps in, and now the floodgates are open. You prevent your opponent from giving you any problems. Here I played this move because I also wanted to put my pawns on dark squares. I do recognize the fact that I was sort of allowing this, but again I still felt fine. I mean, you attack my queen and then I couldn't see any continuation, so I felt this move was completely fine. So that's why I played that. Why does it do this nowadays? Now the rook comes in attacking my queen. Queen drops back. Pawn push. Very happy to see this move. Now I can play uber aggressive. Yes, my king is stuck in the center. Yes, my king looks unsafe, but my opponent is in more trouble than I am. Pawn structure wise, piece wise. I mean, how can my opponent attack me? I'm on the dark square first of all. Your bishop cannot attack me on the dark squares. Your pawns are more on the dark squares. Your king is very unsafe. Your pieces and your rooks are not connected. I'm just doing fine. Knight jumps in, putting pressure on this square. And now he sacrifices his rook. Strangely, takes, bishop takes, and I have no problem taking here. You might say, whoa, you are putting your king in the pin and your rook is hanging. I am not bothered by it in the least. Because there are so many things I can actually do. I think I considered, I briefly considered something very interesting here. I mean, I played these games like almost a month ago. I'm trying to remember what I was thinking. I forget. But he took here. Rook takes, his rook comes in attacking my rook, but then he makes a mistake, leaving his back rank empty, and at this point the game just windows into a win. I trade off all the pieces and I'm completely fine. These passed pawns are going to win me the game. I have a rook and a bishop. I mean, there's nothing my opponent could do here. A very nice game, turning a bad position into a good one. Now, if my opponent played more actively, developed his pieces, and then continued the attack, I possibly wouldn't have survived this game. But then, yeah, I did manage to win it. Let's move on to the next game, which is against Dark Manfik. I don't know what that is. Again, I'm playing black here, which is very interesting because black, I really suck with black. Okay, so my opponent plays f6, f4, and you've seen in my streams that this, I think it is a bird, I guess, is an opening I don't really know how to play against. Now, top players say it's not so good, but again, at this level, we are not very good with theory. So, I mean, I didn't know how to play against this, and I recall I played on stream, or I've forgotten where. I played very uber aggressive against this and I lost. So my mindset with this was, okay, don't force it, right? Don't try and force this weakness to make any sense for you. Just play normal chess, and if any weakness presents itself, you go for it. And that was my plan here. So we developed normally, and yes, h5. I know I said no uber aggressive stuff, but again, I'm looking at the fact that I could force all his pawns to be on dark squares, and then with my bishop and my knight, I could infiltrate on the light squares and possibly do something to his king side. The center is kind of locked, not really locked, but kind of locked. So attacking me may not really work for my opponent. So h4 made like quite a lot of sense. And the point is to mainly provoke weaknesses on my opponent's side of the board. And I get one, which is this. Now it's not on the dark square that I wanted, but now what we see is we have this square. And of course, if I were to, for example, play here, let's just make a random move for my opponent, which is not so good. Here takes here. I think I'm making headway, right? I think I'm making headway. You can take and I can take with my pawn. I think this is okay for me, right? I can even bring my queen here. There are so many weaknesses I can now target. So I'm looking at this position. I'm like, okay, this is fine. So, but it's not what actually happened in the game. Sorry, where are we? Yeah, so he plays h3, I play h4 with that idea in mind. Now the knight jumps in. I'm sure he was expecting me to play my knight in this way, but my knight comes in this way, and he plays here c4, striking in the center, which is fine. I mean, if you can weaken my center, my king is smack dab in the center, but I'm completely okay with this. I don't think my opponent can open up an attack in the center anytime soon. And I see myself castling very soon. Why? Because now after the knight jumps in, you have to respond to my threat. The rook comes into a very good square, but at the moment it's blocked by 3 pieces, so I'm still okay. And I continue with the aggression because, I mean, for this moment, it's going to be very difficult for my opponent to make any moves. So I hold it up, defending before attacking. He pushes, and I was so happy to see this move, right? If he kept the pawn tension of breaking open the position, castling queenside would have been a bit like problematic for me. Imagine the bishop were to move and the rook comes in. My opponent could launch an attack. So him clarifying and playing c5. Now the center is completely locked and my king staying in the center is not a problem. Him breaking here does not make any sense as well. So now bishop comes back, knight jumps in trying to trade off, and then I bring my knight back. Why? It's a safe trade, but if he takes and I take, I really struggle to see how I continue the attack, right? Of course, I can sacrifice, right? So takes, I can sacrifice, pawn takes, and then bring my rook in. But I'm not so convinced about those kinds of ideas. So I keep my knight because I want to keep the attack. Now, if he did try to continue trading, I'm just going to ignore it, right? So he now plays b4. I'm not, my king, again, my king is not there, so I don't fear anything he's doing there at the moment. Now I add my queen to the attack, queen to f6. Agent doesn't like this move, but again, sometimes you have to know ideas, right? Having ideas is more important than even knowing the engine moves per se, right? If you have the right idea, you can get a win. So even if the engine doesn't agree with this move, it could possibly suggest a much better move, but I'm okay with this move because it supports an idea. Bishop comes in, and now my queen just slides over, and we can see the impending doom arising next to my opponent. He finally plays b5. Again, my king is not there. At this point, I can just decide not to castle and just simply push my king up and bring my rooks in, right? And now I take. He blocks, takes with the knight. I think it has a wrong take, capturing the bishop, but anyways, knight takes with check. King comes in, and now my knight drops back. Now the aim is to play pawn push and then simply bring the queen here for checkmate. Queen comes in here. I don't want to trade queens. I'm in an offensive position. Knight drops back. Bishop comes in, threatening to trade. Pawn push again. Bishop takes. This may not have been good. Again, the engine doesn't agree with this move. I think the engine would have preferred knight here, replacing the knight, because the knight is doing a very good job of covering the squares on the king side. But I went for this whole idea, and after pressuring my opponent for a bit, we get into this position. I'm up in material. My opponent's king is very unsafe. Breaking through. Every move is just good for me at this point. Bishop comes back, not a problem. I jump back. Aim is to take here with checkmate. So forces my opponent to capture with his queen. And again, problems. Check here, pawn push, promotes. Problems. Takes with the rook, and that is bad because now that the bishop has blocked the defense, this is just completely winning. Yeah. So that was another nice game that I enjoyed. I mean, I was playing crazy. Albeit, yes, I didn't play the best moves, but I was playing crazy. So now I've hit 1700. I'm happy and I'm enjoying the streak. So I'm like, you know what? Let's play another game. And what does chess.com do? Hits me with an 1800. Now he was 1800, right? So let's see. Of course, when you're playing against an 1800, and you want to win, what do? You play the London system. Yeah. 1900 people left unsubscribed. But yeah, my opponent played in this structure and I do enjoy this. Now, I've not played in this specific pawn structure before. I've not had this specific structure before. But of course, I'm willing to try new things. My opponent plays e6. My knight jumps in and then he plays this move c5. I've never seen this move. Like this is new territory for me. But again, I don't want to activate my opponent's bishop, makes it hard for me to castle. And I don't want him to take, even if I were to play knight here. I don't want that. So I thought about the position a bit and I'm like, okay, you know what, pawn push. I'm not planning on taking actually. I'm planning on actually locking my opponent's position. That's where my mind was. Secondly, this move was motivated because now my opponent's pieces are looking locked there. This move doesn't work as well. I have bishop takes and if bishop takes knight here. We know this consistent idea. So this move looked good for me. My opponent takes, I take, and then he plays a6, a4. Sometimes the engine doesn't like it when I play a4, but I normally play a4 to prevent this whole idea. Queen comes in, knight b e2, knight g to e2, or yeah, knight to e2, just knight to e2. Bishop to e7, and then castle. My opponent also castles, and then I push. So engine doesn't like this, but I like this move because first of all, one, I force my opponent's bishop back and I push my pawn deeper into my opponent's territory. What I think the engine doesn't like about this is the fact that I allow this knight to be free. But that was kind of like my idea. Bishop goes back and now I go queen here. I had this very interesting plan of, I think it was bishop back. I think it was something along these lines. I wanted to force a trade. I can't remember what it was, but I had a very interesting idea, which is why I played the queen to that square. Can't really remember what it was. So now my opponent plays knight to c6. I play bishop to g5. I want to trade off and then bring my knight into this square, right? I want to play takes, and after bishop takes, I bring my knight into this square. So that was why. The point was, if I take and my opponent takes, and I bring my knight to this square is weak. So the foresight was that my queen defends this, and I can aim for other stuff. Now the knight jumps in attacking my queen. My queen moves up. Again, now if you move, this is a problem for you. And also I can target and create problems for my opponent. If you can imagine, I think it was here. Yeah, something of the sort. Now the bishop comes in and I immediately notice that, okay, there's a problem here. So my knight jumps in. This is the wrong move order, to be frank, but my opponent followed my move order. He should have actually just played maybe bishop here or knight here, but my opponent followed my move order and I was lucky there, so fine. And now I block. I should have blocked first. That's the point. But the reason I didn't want to block first was because I didn't want to allow knight takes. I just didn't want to allow that, like in that scenario. So okay, now it's gone back. So now I go takes, and now my knight jumps in there and I force the bishop takes, in a sense. Again, I'm still targeting on winning this. The main idea, for this is to simply prevent the connection to this c5, c2 square. So he takes, I take, and what do you notice? If I can connect these pawns, this is going to be a very nice position for me because these pawns are going to be a thorn in my opponent's side. We have rook into d8. And I sacrifice the rook. This is an exchange sacrifice. I looked at this position quite a lot and I realized that this is just winning for white. Now, engine says it's equal. My opponent could have simply solved all his issues here in this position. But he plays this move, and now the position is just winning. How is it winning? Rook takes, pawn takes, and now queen comes into g5. King goes in. And here you have to see this move, right? I mean, I don't think this is the best move, but the fact that you can take note of you can see this move is just beautiful. Most of us would look for ways to like force an attack in some way, shape, or form. But interestingly, you can just take your time and go queen to f2. Queen to f2 doesn't attack immediately, but of course, it's very obvious what you are aiming for. If your opponent's king comes in, you will see the follow-up move. My opponent now brings his queen in, putting pressure on this pawn. I don't know if that was the best move. Now I take, king comes in, and the creme de la creme, why I really love this game. Rook to a3. And I mean, this is close to unstoppable. It's either I meet you or you lose a queen. He takes, I check. This is forced. Block with my bishop, and I'll jump in with the knight. I mean, how do you save yourself here? There's nothing my opponent can do. This game is completely over. He moves the king, and then checkmates. And then I get my win against an 1800 as a 1700. I don't like that thing that chess.com sometimes does. I literally just entered 1700. Allow me to enjoy it, and you give me an 1800 with a player. But we prevailed and we won. Very, very nice games. I really enjoyed it. Actually, it was 7 wins in a row and then 1 draw. The game after this is a draw. Actually, 2 draws. After this, I had 2 draws. And from then on, I've just been winning. And I went all the way to 1752. I did a stream where I lost some rating points. But I really feel like I can actually get 1800 this week or even next week. I really do believe it. I'm playing out of my mind recently. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you do enjoy it, remember to like, comment, or subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great one. Peace.